MAGA world is preparing its followers for a stolen election.
We're just going to announce Harris is the winner. We're going to go, we win again, and now try to stop us again. And what's different this time is we're going to be able to stop them.
Is there anybody here in North Carolina ready to take this nation back by any means necessary? Say yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're laying out step-by-step plans to overturn a potential Harris victory. These are not random Trump supporters. These are influential figures in the MAGA movement.
With Election Day just days away at this point, MAGA world is already preparing their battle plans if Trump ends up falling short again. The plans include, but are not limited to, challenging the results in court, pressuring lawmakers to block election certification, and encouraging protests, including on, randomly chosen, I'm sure, January 6th, 2025. And according to experts, those involved in these efforts and putting these plans together appear to be more organized, determined, and more extreme than they were in 2020. I have a plan and a strategy, says Ivan Raiklin, a former Green Beret and political operative who has close ties to associates of Trump, as he told a group of Pennsylvania activists earlier this month, quote, and then January 6th is gonna be pretty fun. So what is being planned specifically? Well, while some groups have been gathering supposed examples of election fraud for lawsuits to challenge a potential Harris win, other pro-Trump activists have coalesced around a plan to ensure Trump returns to the White House. State legislators can simply allocate their state's electors for Trump, regardless of vote counts. One plan from Noel Frisch, who's the publisher for the National File, even suggested the Constitution give all state legislatures the power to choose electoral college members. Quote, any movement toward direct democracy is, of course, as history shows, a move toward chaos. And that's what we're seeing, Frisch said. He cited arguments from some Republican Florida legislators who claimed they had the power to select a slate of electors during the razor-thin 2000 presidential race. Now, this is not technically possible, according to Notre Dame law professor Derek Muller. He told CNN, quote, state legislatures would have to first appeal their laws that dictate how elections operate before appointing electors directly. But that's the legal electoral side of things. The more extreme MAGA supporters are readying their battle axes and trying to get ready for, war, for lack of better terms. Some extremists are already preparing, quote, violent activity that they link to the narrative of an impending civil war, raising the risk of violence against government targets and ideological opponents. According to a DHS memo from September obtained by the watchdog group Property of the People and shared with CNN. Posts in recent months on the obscure message board 8kun, formerly 8chan, have called for violence against undocumented immigrants and urged election steal defense prep, while messages on a forum called The Donald encouraged violent shows of force to stop the steal. According to an October bulletin from Colorado's Department of Public Safety, also obtained by Property of the People. On other sites like Telegram, discourse involving violent rhetoric related to election denialism reportedly quadrupled in October. But then again, those are just the conversations and posts we know about. Many extremist groups have apparently moved into private chats to discuss their plans. More in a minute, but I think that's plenty to dissect for now. Cenk?
Yeah, so if you, as you just saw in that clip, they said, the Democrats are just going to declare Kamala Harris the winner without an election. Now you want to know the reality? Representative Andy Harris, leader of the Freedom Caucus, that's the most conservative group in the House, has said that they should declare North Carolina for Trump without any voting. Why? Why on God's green earth would you? Oh, well, there was the hurricane hit parts of North Carolina. They're going to have trouble voting. And obviously they would have voted for Trump. So since they won't be able to vote as much, we think, even though actually they were getting them ballots and doing everything we can to make sure they could vote as much as humanly possible. He says, no, just in case, preemptively declare Trump the winner. But he's outdone by a guy that Ben just mentioned in the story, Ivan Raiklin. He says, no, preemptively declare Trump the winner in every swing state. You don't bother counting the votes. So it's all projection. They've been trying to steal the election. They tried to steal the 2020 election. They stole the 2000 election. And now they're proactively planning to steal the 2024 election. And what they're doing is they're combining the lessons that they learned in 2020 and 2000. So what were those? They realized late in the game after Trump had lost, and he's desperately looking for, how do I fix this thing? How do I rig it, right? And someone comes up with an idea, which they're so proud of. Peter Navarro wrote it in his book, he was that proud, about how, we'll get your electors to say that you won. So then they try that plan, and Rudy Giuliani told us on the Young Turks at the RNC, they couldn't get Trump's real electors to do the plan because it was illegal. So they got he calls them other electors. Everyone else, including in an internal Trump email, calls them fake electors. So they got a bunch of fake electors, a lot of whom have been arrested now. But remember, if Pence doesn't certify, this is so critical to their plan in 2020, but could be critical in 2024. If he doesn't certify, they go, well, I mean, it's unclear, we got to bring it back to the states. And the states have the fake electors ready. If the Republicans at the state level go along, and by the way, to be fair to the Republicans in 2020, the Republicans in those states did not go along, okay? And that's why Trump was so mad at the Republicans in Georgia, Raffensperger and the others. He's like, what the hell, man? Find me 12,000 votes. Who cares? Or put in the fake electors. And so they didn't do that, and God bless on that front. They deserve a lot of credit. But if they have new guys, and by the way, they do, a lot of them now at the state level are talking about, when, if it ever gets to a situation where we can make a difference, we're ready. And so then you say, yeah, okay, Cenk, I hear you, but what difference does it make? Okay, so they send fake electors up. Well, two things are gonna happen. At some point, there's this process by which we realize who the fake and real electors are, right? Yeah, what is that process? Well, the House goes, if the outcome is uncertain, all they have to do is say it's uncertain. Anything that clouds it up makes it uncertain. They vote by states in the House, not by number of seats. So in 2020, even though Democrats had more seats, the Republicans had more states that they controlled in the House. This time around, they have more seats and more states. So if they vote by states, as is the rule in the Constitution, the Republicans can just declare Trump the winner because there was uncertainty. You say, well, okay, but Cenk, there's a safeguard to that. They're gonna go to the courts, and the courts are gonna say these electors are nonsense and the vote is clear. But except in 2000, and that's why that precedent is so important, in Bush v. Gore, if you remember, there was no certainty about who had won the state of Florida, and Florida was in the middle of a recount, just the first recount. Trump asked for and received 3 recounts in Georgia, which I have no problem with, including a hand recount. I want him to be absolutely sure who won. Supreme Court blocked a recount of Florida and said, we're declaring Bush the winner. We don't care. We don't want you to count those votes. And they didn't. So now that precedent exists. So if they do this scam, then they go to the courts, the 6 conservative justices, half of whom were appointed by Trump, can just say, we have a precedent in 2000, sorry, we can't count any votes. Stop the counting. We're not gonna let you count any of the actual votes. The House has already gone through a constitutional process, and they say that Trump has won, it's over. And so it is not at all impossible. And that is why they learned those lessons, and they are now not going to panic at the end of an election when he loses. They're getting ready ahead of time to do this plan.
And this represents another level of cheating the system. We're sort of used to voter disenfranchisement that we've seen. Cenk and TYT talks about dark money all the time and getting money out of politics. These are this gerrymandering, dark money. It's all how to cheat the system within the system. But this is another level. You're going to game the system in a completely different way. The assets to which Cenk has referred, and it's taking the democratic process into a place which is really all about cheating. It's no longer about representing the people's voice. It's about ways in which you can just grab power. It's alarming, not just for this election, but for moving forward as well.
And there's more here about Trump's actions to help gin this up, yet he always says, but I just have one thing I just realized. I'm curious, Cenk, if this is the case. This election, the Mike Pence spot is Kamala Harris. She's the one that's gonna have to certify the election whether she wins or loses.
Yeah, so that's why I've said all along, Republicans, you really wanna play this game? I mean, look, and the reason why you do is because you know the Democrats aren't gonna cheat. You actually know, but like a lot of them probably don't know that, to be fair to the voters. But the politicians all know the Democrats are squares. They play by the rules. They never color outside the lines, right? They're these days, unfortunately, they're more the establishment, and they love the system and they abide by the system. But if they're as dastardly as you think, Republicans, Kamala Harris can just use the same thing and go, sorry, not certify. I'm the vice president. Now what are you gonna do?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, this is your dumb idea that one person can invalidate the entire election. The vice president has these magical powers in a democracy. Now they never existed. Mike Pence was right all along. That power doesn't exist in the vice president. It's a ceremonial role to go, yes, the people here declare that this is correct. It's already been, the votes have already been recounted many, many times by the time it reaches and it's already been certified at the state level. And that's the last part of the process that's ceremonial, besides which they passed another law saying that the vice president cannot do it. But nonetheless, the Republicans get it ready anyway, because they think, well, yeah, but you gotta go through the states. And if we control the state legislatures, we could just get them to say, no, Trump's electors are the real electors no matter what happens.
And of course, the orange monster has already been crying foul in this election. For context, last week, election officials in Lancaster County announced they had flagged 2 batches of voter registrations totaling 2,600 applications for extra review after identifying signs of potential registration fraud. On Monday, Trump of course falsely claimed that the registrations flagged for review were fake ballots and forms, all written by the same person. Lancaster officials have not released the names of the canvassing organizations that submitted the registration or provided a final determination on how many applications and dockets were actually fraudulent. Remember, these are voter registrations, not ballots, and it was caught, which I had a Republican Trump supporter friend of mine forward me a link to that story as proof of voter fraud. And then I said, did you read the article? And she literally said to me, oh, you read the article? So there's that. Lancaster County Commissioner and Election Board Chairman Ray D'Agostino, who's a Republican, clarified means the safeguard against voter fraud is working. The safeguards are indeed working. But nevertheless, Trump decided to go on a bender these last few days, claiming huge electoral fraud in the key swing state of Pennsylvania, posting, "We caught them cheating big in Pennsylvania.
Who's we?
Must announce and prosecute now. This is a criminal violation of the law. Stop voter fraud. Check out Kamala's new sleazebag lawyer. We are on them all this time." Who would have ever thought that our country is so corrupt? Who would have thought it? People that make it up, I suppose, would think that. And so we're stuck again with one of the 2 biggest political leaders in this country that is just undermining our democracy, ruining every shred of it we have left for his own gain, even before a result, as he did last time, preparing the clip I always point people to. You can look it up on YouTube. It's a 56-second clip. Trump refuses to commit to peaceful transfer of power from the White House podium. He was asked months before the elections last time, will you commit to a peaceful transfer of power? And he literally said, we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see, okay? If I've been complaining about the ballots for a while, as though his complaining makes things fact, which he probably said thinks they do. He complains about something that he believes is an egregious assault against him, even though it's in fantasy land, it becomes reality. And he said, and if I win, there won't even be a transfer. It'll be a continuation, frankly. And just right there, you're disqualified from any office in this land ever again, let alone the highest office. If you don't honor our elections, you're not running to be the president of a democracy. Yet that is somehow what he's doing and is neck and neck with those who care about the law.
So I've been going on a lot of conservative shows, and the conservatives have come on here, and they don't know that line he said after the election where he said we should terminate all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution if there's massive fraud in an election. There is no provision in the Constitution for the document to implode within 5 seconds if Trump thinks there was massive fraud, right? And that pisses off conservatives, which I'll give them credit for. They're like, well, I don't like that talk of terminating the Constitution. He doesn't care about our Constitution. He doesn't care about anything but power. That's so obvious, guys. So In this case, Ben said, read the article. Today I had an article in Newsweek about how it's not just the left-right spectrum. There's also a populist versus establishment spectrum. And somebody wrote in immediately on Twitter, oh, so now you're turning far right. I'm like, in the article, I said I'm voting for Kamala Harris. And that I loathe Donald Trump. Read the article, please. Okay, so in this case, they're like, you see this? They're gonna cheat. That's why they caught the cheaters. Wait, why did they catch them? If they're gonna have this dastardly plan to cheat, you don't often say like, hey guys, we're playing Monopoly and I just stole 500 from the bank. Hey guys, I have an ace up my sleeve. That's not how cheaters normally go, right? So they caught him because the system worked. And whoever they did that, oh my God. What do you do? Are you insane in these volatile times? Handing in anything wrong, don't come within a million miles, because all they want is a simple little excuse. Hey, Billy Bob in Georgia handed in 3 things wrong. That's it, we are. Because they're not actually trying to figure out who won. We haven't even had the election yet.
And Trump is the one who does. He's one of the few people ever who does actually speak about his crimes. He does say I have an ace up my sleeve and it doesn't even matter. There was an interview recently where he was called out on Fox News for having not gone with the election results, and he said, it's my right to not believe in the election results. I mean, those are basically the words he said, and it doesn't even make a ripple.
Yeah, and by the way, you should be happy about one thing in this story, because they're crying a lot about how the election is rigged over the last couple of days, and only over the last couple of days. And at the same time, we shared with you guys earlier in the week, Margaret Hoover came out and said, now I'm getting reports of bad internal numbers in the Trump campaign, and they're a little worried. Yeah. So the minute they're worried about losing the election, they're like, it's rigged, it's rigged. Yeah. You know who doesn't say an election is rigged? Someone who's winning it easily.
Right. The more they complain, the more of an indicator that it is indeed reflective of some kind of internal polling that they have. And there is every bit of indication, even exit polling in early voting, that a lot of the blocks in Pennsylvania, seniors that are typically leaning to the right, actually are voting left, voting Kamala Harris this time around. Last thing I would say is that Steve Bannon has openly articulated, now he's free and on his podcast or whatever, free to talk about something that is the articulated plan. He feels that Trump waited too long to declare victory last time, needs to declare victory earlier this time. So it's kind of what we're talking about, talking about the plan and explaining the strategy ahead of time. That is how shameless they are. So with all of this stuff in play, it seems like there are so many different ways in which they plan to cheat the system. And way one is to complain before the voting has even begun. And way two is to declare victory on election night way before things have even been counted.
I also feel like there should be a new regulation in this country that once you get released from prison for interfering in our democracy, there should be a 2-year probation where you're not allowed to podcast.
Well, you've got a guy who engineered a coup, who is running for president, who might actually end up being president. You'd think if that didn't disqualify him, then.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.